Hey guys, great to see you. Hey Lise, Richard, Spider Monkey, great to see you guys. Sorry about last week. I did my best while I was traveling, but I had some tech issues. My computer charger wasn't charging my computer. It would when it was off, but it wouldn't when it was on. And for some reason, my battery was getting drained super fast. So it would only stay on for like 10, 15 minutes at a time. So I couldn't do live streams and I had to do my analysis really fast. In like every 30 minutes or so, I could open my computer for like 10 minutes. It was a little bit challenging, but we got through it. So I apologize for that. If you guys are not in my public Telegram channel, please go ahead and join that if you would like to get my daily updates. And we do things like the gamma levels. For example, this morning we showed that there was this really concentrated gamma at 645 and at 6450. And where did we end today on SPY? We closed at 640. That's not right. Do I have delayed data? I thought we closed at 644, like 90 or something. Let me see. Oh yeah, it's reported. It's gone down after market. So where we closed was, I guess maybe a couple minutes before we closed, maybe I was looking at the wrong thing. Maybe I was looking at XSP. In any case, we closed at it looks like around 643 and change. So not super close today, but if you read my comments, which are more important than just staring at the gamma levels, it was that we had clear exposure right here, but that would probably act more as a ceiling. And it's looking like it was chop for the day. And it was definitely chop for the day. We just chopped back and forth all day long. And the high looks like was around 644. So gamma got pretty close, but not exact. But it was good enough to make money. I think I did a XSP. So I went into an XSP using this analysis. I went into an XSP butterfly centered at 645 and XSP closed at 644.92. That's what I was looking at. Okay, so XSP closed at 644.92, which is basically right smack in the middle of my butterfly, and I got 94% of the max gain, which is very, very close to the max gain. So I made $132 on what the maximum would be on $140 per spread, risking only $160. So that's pretty close to, let's see, what is 132 divided by 160? Okay, so we made 82.5% on our risk, which is not bad. Basically just holding this butterfly for a few hours today. So that's the type of thing that you can do when you have good gamma levels. We'll be able to do stuff like that once my gamma tool is up. Unfortunately, today we had some issues over the weekend where I was running really slow, so I wasn't able to use that particular tool. I would love to show it to you again, but again, it's not running. So if I just hit the button, you're just going to watch it spin. So I can't show it to you today or the new updates, but as soon as they get that data feed fixed, then we'll be able to showcase that to you again. So if you want to join my Telegram channel, then you'll be able to get those gamma levels reported to you along with my commentary on how to read and interpret those gamma levels. Sometimes it's not so straightforward. It's not like, oh, 645, we're going to pin there today. That wasn't the case, and that's not what I indicated in the comment either. So it does take a little bit of more experience and a little bit of an art to kind of read exactly what those numbers and charts are telling you. But if you can get the hang of it, it can be super, super helpful. Let's see. Hey, James and Tim, Art, great to see you. Took a boring trade on Yum Brands. Okay, I'll take a look at that and take a look at that. I learned something really interesting today, which is that the national Christmas meal, like the official traditional Christmas meal in Japan, is a bucket of chicken from KFC. I had no idea. I learned that from some friends over the weekend that I was visiting with. and they're from Japan, and they're telling me, yeah, KFC is the traditional Christmas meal, and even people who are traveling outside of Japan when on Christmas, like if they come to the US for Christmas, they're in KFC trying to get a bucket of chicken. I thought that was amazing. So someone at KFC or Yum Brands did an incredible marketing job in Japan, because everyone in Japan apparently has a bucket of KFC on Christmas. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, so meat grinder. Yeah, Yum Brands does Pizza Hut, KFC, Taco Bell, all of those. Did I see similar on SPX? Yes. So we had that exact same spike at 64.50 on SPX. Let's see how that performed. SPX. 64.49.16. We're basically right on a dot for SPX. Very, very accurate for SPX. You could have pinned that one. And actually on XSP also. XSP had it at 645. So that's why I had mine centered at 645, and it was within 8 cents of that. So very, very accurate on XSP and SPX today. Let's take a quick look at Yum. I'm just kind of curious. Okay. So did you... this looks like a long to me. Breakout above all these moving averages with some momentum and strength. So if you didn't want to chase it, you would wait for a pullback to all these moving averages. But this overall looks like it's starting to become bullish. It's this long-term sideways chop. If we can get above this high over here, then that will become more bullish. But it's on its way to becoming bullish. This is pretty aggressive movement up over the last week. In terms of SPY overall markets, we are just chopping sideways 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row now. We are getting kind of close to those EMA 8s. So last week, before I went traveling, we were talking about how we hit that all-time high, but we are probably going to either chop or pull back before we went higher. The bullishness in the market made me feel that, okay, we're probably not going to stay in this wide chopping range that we had before, but this type of movement and the lack of momentum in the markets indicated to me that, okay, we're probably going to chop sideways for a little bit before we moved higher. And it does kind of look like it's probably going to be the case for the rest of this week, or for at least a couple more days. And there's a couple ways that we look at that. The first is technically, right? So technically we are getting close to that EMA 8, but we haven't quite touched it yet. And so that would be akin to maybe this day or this day over here. Right? So we start chopping sideways, and then at some point we touch the EMA 8, we touch it, we touch it, we touch it, and then we start floating above it again. Takes a little bit of time to get through this chop. So a few more days of chop would not be unheard of, especially since we haven't even touched the EMA 8 yet. But once we do touch the EMA 8, it would be probably a few days before we start to float higher. Of course, it could break down as well, but the higher probability event is that it would bounce off of that and continue higher. Let's see if I can find any more examples of that. So sort of like this this one didn't quite touch, but 1, 2, 3, 4 days touching it, and then it started to float back upwards. So there's this slow, steady movement upwards. We're not in a super high volatility regime, and VIX is telling us the same thing. We're still right here at 1498, so right about 15. We did spike up all the way to 16 today before coming back down, but that's nowhere near 20. And so you might have noticed I didn't take a VIX bet. I didn't comment on, hey, maybe a long call on VIX would be a good idea. Probably because it didn't feel like that we would just bounce immediately back. Not like this, where we hit 15, a couple days, we'll bounce immediately back. I don't think that we're going to rip upwards, at least not this week. So maybe next week, if VIX is still floating around here, then I would consider a VIX call. But right now, just from what I'm seeing in the market, most likely chop sideways. We don't have really any major catalysts coming up, with the exception of maybe the release of the FOMC minutes, I think is this Wednesday. Yeah, right there on Wednesday. And really, what are they going to say? Oh, there were two dissenters who wanted to raise rates. We're waiting on the data. Right? At that point in time, we didn't have the data that we have right now that indicated that has the bond markets and bond futures markets thinking that 83% chance that we're going to get a rate cut in September, which by the way is down because on Friday it was like 90 or maybe, okay, well, that's one of the days last week we were at 99.4, I think it was. It should be on the recordings. We unfortunately we don't have the 2, 3, 4, 5 day number, but somewhere in between these 85%, we did hit over 99%. So that's come down a little bit. So I don't think the Fed is going to say, I don't think we're going to discover anything in the Fed minutes that is going to be all that interesting to the markets. And over here, we don't have nothing tomorrow. E-commerce retail sales will be important for maybe Amazon, but not really the whole market. And then over here on Thursday, jobless, yeah, none of this is going to be super, super exciting. And then Powell speaks at Jackson Hole. That will be highly, highly analyzed. So that we can expect a lot of volatility on Friday, maybe some volatility on Wednesday. I don't know if Jerome Powell actually says anything that sends the markets in one direction or the other. It is definitely possible. Jackson Hole is a very, very highly followed speech. And he could say if he doesn't stick to his script exactly, he might say something that sends markets one way or the other. Sort of like last time when he did the press conference, he said he was kind of, it could be interpreted very easily that he was implying that there wasn't going to be another rate cut, maybe even in September. And so that September number went all the way down to like 30 or 40%. And then the data came out a couple days later and it shot back up to 90. So yeah, you can see over here 1 month ago it was only at 55.9. So it was pretty close. It was in the 80s, I think. And then he started talking and then tanked all the way down to 30 something over the next couple days before we got that data, CPI data, that shot it back up. So he does have the power. So chop sideways. I don't think the Wednesday report or the minutes being released is going to do much, but Friday could change, could send us in one direction or the other. And because it is a comment by the Fed and the market will be using that to project forward, then that negates any sort of technical analysis. So earlier when I said, oh, we usually float sideways and then we're more likely going to go up, that's the normal case scenario. But that's a normal case scenario without any intervention or any sort of catalyst. So the Fed saying something or Powell saying something could completely negate. So because of that, if the move comes on Friday, then a 50-50 shot as to whether it's up or down. It just really depends on what Powell says. Okay. Hi, Kay. Illinois growing farmer. Good to see you. Gamma exposure is very helpful in doing trades on SPX and SPY. Oh, you're very welcome, Dan. Good afternoon, Cfazio. Yeah, 98% probably right cut. Thank you, Richard. Yeah. So most likely chop sideways. I don't think any major earnings are coming up either. I think we're pretty much through all of that. Let me just verify. This week. Walmart, Home Depot, those will have influence. Intuit will have some influence. The rest are like all these retail shopping things. There's a lot of retail shopping type of names. So that sector could be affected. Let's take a look at Walmart. Walmart coming up on Thursday morning. Yeah, so we could see, I mean, that'll be a little after the Fed minutes. So maybe we could see some volatility in the second half of the week. Hi, John. Oh. You're welcome, Peter. We have some bigger, yeah, HD, yeah. There are a lot of retail. So if they're all in the same direction, then that will have an influence as well. Let's look at Home Depot. Home Depot on Tuesday morning. That's tomorrow. So we'll see that tomorrow. And then Lowe's in the same category will be on Wednesday. Okay. Oh, there could be an earnings play on, like, since Home Depot and Lowe's are so similar, and they will definitely affect each other on their earnings. It'd be an interesting play could be wait for Home Depot to come out. And if Home Depot is way down, then probably Lowe's is going to be way down. Or if Home Depot is way up, then probably Lowe's is going to be way up. Or if Home Depot goes nowhere, probably Lowe's is going to be going nowhere. So we can design a trade around that. Once you have the information on the Home Depot earnings, then you can design a trade around the Lowe's earnings. So maybe we'll do that tomorrow. That could be kind of, or is that Wednesday morning? Yeah, tomorrow. Maybe we'll take a look at that tomorrow. All right, so the other thing I wanted to do is last week, because of my computer problems, I wasn't able to go over some of the trades that we had looked at before in this post-market session. So the major one was gold. And you can see that gold landed inside of our max gain zone towards the bottom of it, but inside our max gain zone on the iron condor. So that made a max profit. And if you recall, the way that we did it is we saw this range right here, and we initially created a iron condor around that, but then when we put it on, I think it was skewed to the top side. And then we said, okay, let's do the equal move ratio. And that equal move ratio told us that we might as well bring this in all the way up here, because a move down here versus a move down there in terms of the reward risk ratio was not going to really make a big difference. And so using the equal move, we moved this all the way up to, I think, 305 or maybe a little 306. I don't remember exactly which one, because since well, maybe I can, there you go. 306.16 is where we moved it to. And we landed inside of there. And so that was the max gain. So that was a nice trade right there. And then I believe we did a McDonald's. We showed you McDonald's and we said, okay, this one was based on gamma pockets. I really wish the software was running right now. I could show you the gamma pocket. We said 310 and then 320 were the two gamma pockets. And we felt like we could make it to 320 by the mid-September. And so do I have that? I think I might have accidentally deleted that trade. Oh, no, it's there. Okay, so that was a bull call spread. We did a 305, 310. And so if it makes it 2, 3, 10, then that's the max gain. And it looks like we did touch 310 a few times. So that first gamma pocket has acted as resistance. And once we get over it, it seems pretty likely we will get over it. And if that does happen, then we'll be in our max gain zone, and that one will make it a nice profit. So it's up as of right now about 9% if the mark is good. I don't know if the mark is good. Let's take a look at that. 305, 310. It's okay, not great. That's 10% on the bid-ask spread, which is a little on the large side, but it's okay. And then 310 is 30 cents. That's much better for a $5 option. So I would say it's not the best mark, but we have a general idea. What we know is that it's moved enough that for now it's in the, actually if we close, right, if it was the expiration, we would make profit, just not the max profit. So we are in our profit zone, just not our max profit zone. So that trade is looking pretty good as well. So tomorrow we'll take a look at an earnings play. Let's see what we can do today. So with the market chopping sideways, there's not a whole lot for me to do. Like there's no point in comparing sectors, right? It's unless there's a sector that is really outperforming and or a sector that is really underperforming. But for the most part, they're going to be highly correlated to the overall markets. And so they're going to chop sideways as well. But I guess I might as well look. I shouldn't make the assumption. Uh-oh. Stock fetcher. Let's try a different browser. Nope. Something going on with stock fetcher. So I can't do my sectors with the stock fetcher, so I got to do it over here. So today, solar energy up big. So solar was up really big on Friday. It completely destroyed my weekend trading club trade, unfortunately. We just happened to pick a stock that was in the sector. So that was the Trump administration talking about tax credits for the solar industry, and it just took off like crazy. So Friday, so if I look at TAN, yeah, on Friday and then today continuing on. So that move is way overdone in my opinion. So that we're going to start looking for this to chop sideways or pull back some. That's a huge move for a single day. And yes, it is kind of fundamental news, going forward. So if they get the tax credits for the next 4 years, then yeah, that does really help the valuation of these companies. And so rightly so, it should be moving higher. But this was too fast of a move. So it will be corrected, and then we can expect to see a longer term trend develop, or at least a medium term trend develop in the solar sector. And then, so I'd be waiting for pullbacks in TAN or in solar. Okay, and clean energy, same thing. Blockchain, crypto, that's interesting. And cloud computing, no, those are much less. So let's see SPY versus Block, SPY versus Sky. Okay, it looks like maybe a bottoming right here, with today as a confirmation as a bottom. So if I ignore all these lines, forget all these moving averages are a little less meaningful when we're taking an asset priced in terms of SPY rather than priced in terms of the US dollar, but they can still be helpful, but they're just less meaningful because there's less people looking at it and using it as a guideline. Okay, so if we just look at the pure price action, that is a pretty aggressive move off of this low, but then it did move quite aggressively off of this low as well. Now, I don't know if I'd be quite ready to, obviously this is still a downtrend. Okay, so if I do highs, and we're still well below that. Okay, so not quite ready for cloud computing yet. Let's do block. Blockchain looking good. The unfortunate thing about block, I may have to use a different measure for crypto, because from what I remember, the constituents in block were not helpful at all. Let's see, let me verify that. Oh, I'm completely wrong. Okay, I don't know, I guess either I'm going nuts or I was looking at the wrong thing last week. No, Hood, Galaxy, MSTR coin. Yeah, so this is a good representation. So cryptos looking like we are picking up. And we can look at some specifics. And then what was the other sector? Retail. Interesting. I wouldn't want to make bets on retail though, because we saw all those earnings on retail shops coming out this week. So I'd avoid retail. So blockchain, it looks the most interesting to me at the moment. So if I go coin, not yet. The most interesting crypto related stocks or even coins to me are the Bitcoin treasury stocks. Anyone who's thinking altcoins there, I've seen people, or actually someone, I don't remember who, someone was sending me something about, oh, altcoins are going to catch up. And, there's too big of a distance between Bitcoin and altcoins. And traditionally, or historically over the past, I don't know, 10 years, I don't know how, then we should see a catch up in altcoins. And I don't think so. And I'll tell you guys why. So we have the crypto space is made up of major currencies. The two major ones are Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then there's a whole, and maybe XRP, you could argue. And the other ones are basically all altcoins. There's more than just those three that are not considered altcoins, but the vast majority of all other coins are altcoins. The problem with altcoins is that they're very small. They don't have much market cap and they don't do much volume trading on a per day basis. Bitcoin exchanges billions of dollars per day. SPY exchanges billions of dollars per day. An altcoin is sort of like a small cap stock, maybe a couple $1,000,000 per day. And right now, what's driving the blockchain or crypto markets is institutional money coming into the cryptocurrencies. That's completely different than what we had before last year. So from the invention of Bitcoin in 2008 all the way until 2024, call it, it was largely driven by retail. Even 2024, it was only partway through 2024 where we started to have institutional ETFs show up. And all the institutions were poo-pooing it and saying, no, it's not an investable asset, right? We're not going to. And so it was all retail. And so, yes, during that period of time when you have, maybe the biggest guy in the market has $1 million or a couple $1,000,000 and he's playing around with Bitcoin and altcoins, then yeah, you're going to see this catch up on altcoins because basically everything is a small cap stock at that point in time. Everything is retail. Now, if you're saying that institutional money is now coming in, that money is not going to be evenly distributed across all those coins. They cannot invest in those, just like they can't invest in the tiny penny stocks. They can't invest in those altcoins. And so their money coming in is going to be concentrated in the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, and the XRPs of the world. So those coins are the ones that are getting all the money, and that's why the altcoins are being left behind. So anyone who's expecting an altcoin recovery, I forget what they call it, like an altcoin season or altcoin, whatever it is, I don't think it's coming. I really don't think it's coming. You're seeing a change of environment and the rules so this is why you can't just look at charts and look at history. You need to know the context of the market that you're playing in and where that market is in its own lifeline. So cryptos have shifted with the institutional money in. We're now in a different phase than we've ever seen in the crypto market. And so we need to look at the history of other asset classes that were brand new and became less brand new. And that's what we're seeing right now. Institutional adoption means money is going to be completely lopsided going into the crypto markets, and it's going to be completely concentrated in the Bitcoins and Ethereums and whatever other major coins of the world are, but actually really mostly Bitcoin. And so I wouldn't be chasing altcoins at this moment in time. And so my favorite, and actually a lot of those institutions, they still can't even buy Bitcoin. So they're going to go into companies that hold Bitcoin and thus Bitcoin treasuries. So, so that's why I prefer going into a company, a Bitcoin treasury stock versus Bitcoin. And I definitely would not be putting money into any altcoins right now, because that's just going to be retail traders. It's going to be smaller and smaller, less and less significant. A lot of them are going to die out, just like in the dot-com era. Okay, so dot-com era, what happened? Everyone and their mother started a whatever.com and listed it on the exchange. A bunch of money went into it. It was mostly retail traders because most of them were just too small cap. And then what happened? Now the institutions go into the Googles of the world, the Amazons of the world, the really big guys at that time. And now they're extremely big, but at that time they weren't. They were the top of the food chain of the tech space or the internet bubble space, but they were still not that big at that time. And so the institutions were only able to go into there, and then all the kind of scam .coms, or all the ones that were only being followed by retail traders, all of those just disappeared. That's what we call the bubble bursting. So we're going to see a burst in the altcoins soon. I don't know exactly when. I don't follow the market too closely. I don't follow the crypto market too closely. Because why? Because I'm following what the institutions are doing. That's my strength is in institution, because that's my background. So I'm just going to do what I know, and I know that institutions are going to go into these equities that are related to coins, and those institutions and those equities that hold a lot of coins, they're not going to be holding altcoins. they're going to hold Bitcoin and Ethereum and what was it, the one that starts with L. I'm blanking, but let's take a look. So even if I look at BTC USD, we're seeing that huge growth. Okay, but is there an altcoin index or ETF? Altcoin season, that's what they call it. Altcoin season index. Yeah, this thing is going to die. This altcoin season it's never going to be altcoins. Just my opinion, but based on my experience in the markets, we're never going to see altcoin season again. That its days are over. It's going to fade away, just like all those .coms faded away. So is there a ticker for it? But this is already comparing to Bitcoin, so I can't use that. Well, in any case, let's just compare the major ones, right? So the second biggest after Bitcoin's got to be Ethereum. I got it. Okay, let's say crypto market caps. Oops. Here, coin market cap. Okay, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. So I got the big three left. So it looks like the Litecoin is already dead. Interesting, because it was so big before. And Tether. Okay, but look at this. What's the market cap here? Okay, 1, 2, 3 trillion, 2.3 trillion on Bitcoin. And then the next biggest one is Ethereum at 524 billion. That's nothing to Wall Street. So, and then 183 billion. So let's just compare these four. And I want to see, if I'm right, then what we should see is a huge outperformance of Bitcoin versus anything else, even Ethereum, because their market caps are so different. Okay, so if I'm going to do Bitcoin versus Ethereum, Bitcoin versus Tether, Bitcoin versus XRP. Okay, so let's do the smaller one first. So if I do BTC USD divided by Tether, what's this? Tether. What's Tether? Tether. I guess this is already that. There's no individual tether, I guess. Okay, you can see that Bitcoin is outperforming Tether. It is really, really going up. Okay. And then if we do Bitcoin, BTC USD divided by XRP. Huh. Is that right? XRP. XRP. Crypto cap. BTC. BTC USD divided by XRP. XRP versus, well, I really want it versus Bitcoin. Oh, XRP Bitcoin. So if we do that. Okay, so flat recently. XRP outperformed in this period, but then kind of flat after that. So remember, this is kind of the reverse. So XRP has been holding up to Bitcoin during this period of time. Okay, so BTC USD divided by Ethereum. Is that right? Okay, and it's a little underperformed Ethereum in the last month. Okay, so Ethereum's really been, let's see, Ethereum USD. Okay, and then let's do BTC USD. Okay, so I think that's okay. So you can see, actually, they've been both doing quite well. They are following each other. Looks like Bitcoin, at least on the scale that we have on the screen, has been outperforming Ethereum. Okay, and then in the past year, they've been roughly the same. Okay, so in this last month or so, or actually in the last 2 months, Ethereum's really caught up. Because before, Bitcoin was well outperforming them. Now Ethereum's starting to catch up. And then let's do the same thing for XRP. Okay, so XRP, since the beginning of, or the end of last year, has been outperforming. So that's probably related to the speculation of the US adopting some sort of stable coin. But so in any case, my point is pretty much made, although this XRP kind of sort of negates it, but it doesn't negate my point that institutionally, we're only going to see institutional adoption of these top coins. Okay, I don't know how far down. I seriously doubt Dogecoin. Okay, so probably not as far down as Dogecoin, maybe as far down as Solana. Okay, but really, I would only be comfortable with the top 3 or even top 2. Where the institutions really are going to put money into these coins if they can, or if they can't, then they're going to put them into the Bitcoin treasury stocks. And if you look at Bitcoin treasuries, then I wonder if they show you holdings, like MSTR coin holdings. Let's see. NVIDIA's next week. Okay. Yeah. So the intraday and very short-term markets are sensitive to news and politics. But on a longer scale, you'll only be sensitive to policy changes. So if it's the same policy, just a different extreme, that's not really going to, it's got to be a complete shift in policy. Okay, so MSTR has 629,000 Bitcoin. And they don't mention anything else. MSTR, does MSTR hold Ethereum? MicroStrategy of Ether, but yeah, I'm not seeing any holdings right here of Ethereum. Bitcoin holders said they're only holding Bitcoin or they're only tracking the Bitcoin holdings, which should tell you the importance of Bitcoin even versus the second biggest coin on which is Ethereum. So again, anyone who's just thinking that they've nailed down cryptos, they've been watching cryptos for 10 years or since 2008, what is that, 17 years, then they think they're an expert, and I don't think so. I think this market has shifted and they better catch up fast. They better have a history of understanding the life cycle of assets because we've shifted into a new phase. We had a beginning phase where it was all retail, and now institutions are playing, and that's going to be a completely different ballgame. Yeah. MSTR doesn't hold anything other than Bitcoin. Thank you, Sifazio. Okay. Sam is asking about BMNR. I believe that's biomarine, which has nothing to do with cryptos, but let's take a look at it. Oh no, Bitmine immersion technology. I was completely BM, or I'm probably thinking BMRN. Bitcoin immersion technologies. I've never heard of this. What do these guys do? BMNR. Farcoin. I'm sure there's a great future for Farcoin. Bitcoin mining. Yeah, miners are going to get squeezed because at some point, every single Bitcoin is going to be mined. And so there will be no new Bitcoins to be mined. And so all those guys then are just doing transactions between the transfer of Bitcoin. So who can solve the transfer faster, and then they'll get their little fee off of that. So they're not going to mine new coins into existence. So the future of any miner is, I don't know how close we are. That's not something like, again, I'm not a super expert on cryptos because I'd rather just follow what institutions are doing. But I gotta imagine that we're at least, well, let's find out. What percent of Bitcoins have been mined? And just get a rough idea. 94%. Okay, so we're almost out of Bitcoins. So that's it. Once we do 100, that's it. We're typed out. Then Bitcoin miners they don't have a bright future. Then they're just becoming transactional. So I would not be betting on any Bitcoin miners or coin miners. Okay. Tom Lee's creating MSTR for ETH. Oh, interesting. Okay. So maybe that could be why. Like once we get these treasury stocks for Ethereum as well, then you'll see a lot of institutional money move over there as well. The play with BMR is ETH with Tom Lee. Okay, so they would change their business model then. Okay. You think it's going to take over 100 years to mine the last 6% of Bitcoin? I have no idea. You could be right. I'm completely ignorant on what that entails. But I mean, if there's only 6% left, So 17 years, we did 94% of it. It doesn't seem like it would take 100 years to mine the last Bitcoin. But there could be something to mining that I'm completely wrong. But if that's the case, then you're saying only 6% are going to be mined over the next 100 years. That's even worse for Bitcoin miners because their chances of like the competition is going to be so great that a lot of them are going to die off. Can Fartcoin be what? There's no way that institutions will ever be in Fartcoin. I'm sorry, unless it just gets some tremendous market cap. But you have to ask yourself, what is the value? What is there? Is there an actual core value or root value inside of this coin? I have no idea what Fartcoin's proposed value is, other than just being a coin and being a joke. But Bitcoin was the first, and so it already has a whole bunch of money in it, and so that it holds its moat. It's defensible. Ethereum does contracts, and so that adds their added value to the crypto space. And then XRP is, I don't remember exactly what XRP does, but each one's at the top, they're going to have an actual value, an actual point for their existence. And anyway, just like the .coms, Google was search engine, and Amazon was online e-commerce, and each one had some sort of value versus a .com that just showed up just to ride the trend, which didn't really have even any revenue or even a business model really. So those ones die. So basically what we're saying is there a business model behind this coin? And for Ethereum and Bitcoin there are, but for all of these altcoins, probably not. And if they do, then the market doesn't value them, whatever value that they're creating. So in the end, it's not going to be sustainable. Wokes, I just explained over the past 40, 50 minutes how, at least from my estimation and my analysis, there's not going to be an alt season. At least not, there have been in the past, but there's not going to be another one. So is Fartcoin going to be part of a non-existent alt season? You could say yes, or you could say no. It wouldn't really matter because that alt season, in my opinion, is not going to manifest. Just like looked at options on coin, looks like they don't move or are completely controlled. They don't move. I don't know. The underlying has to move. And if there's a delta on them, then they're going to move. So if we look at coin, yeah, 1 month out, we have deltas. Just how large is that delta versus the price? So a 1% move would be $3.20. So $1.50 on a 2,000 option. Yeah, that's not going to move that much percentage wise. Yeah, it's going to be fairly insensitive. And that has more to do with the value that's being assigned to these rather than the actual, than saying it's being controlled. What's happening is, look at this. So it's 320, and we're saying that we're asking for $20 just for it to go up, $2.25 or $2.50. What we're saying is that IV is incredibly high. These are really, 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 really expensive options. Okay, so the price of a $2.50 movement is 20, versus something like, I don't know, let's say, what's around that value? I don't even know. Google? Let's Google these days. Okay, 204. Okay, so 204, we're paying $700 for it, for that same $2.50 move. Okay, so what we're saying is that IV on that coin is way higher than the IV on Google. So the market maker is making those super, 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 super expensive. Right, Richard, that's exactly right. No intrinsic value in any altcoin. Correct. ETH highs in August. Yeah, this is a strong trend. So there's no reason to believe August, we've got a week and a half left. Could it break the highs? I don't know about break the highs. We could retest the highs and possibly break the highs. It's not a non-zero. It's not a zero probability. It is a non-zero probability. There is a chance. I don't know how high that chance is though, because cryptos are kind of shifting sideways right now. If we look at, Bitcoin is chopping sideways. Ethereum is having a little bit of a pause. Yeah, pullback and maybe pause. And then, but we did see block kind of starting to creep up and increase. So there's a chance. It's a not zero chance. Okay. All right, we talked way more about crypto than I thought we would. But I think the most important takeaway is that, look, we're not playing the same game we were the first 18 years of crypto. We're in a different game. And if you don't recognize that we're in a different game, then you're going to get left behind or you're going to lose a bunch of money. ABT, the Abbott Labs. Well, first thing I notice is weak to the market, right? So basically, if we look at the shape, we recovered and we're at new all-time highs in the overall markets, but Abbott Labs hasn't. So these all-time highs are over here, and all we did was come up and touch this area of resistance. Like there's a huge amount of chop over here, so we touched it and we rejected it. We didn't reject it too far, so that's promising, but that really just, for me, that just means that we're still stuck in this area. Okay, so look how much is over here. So it looks like a bunch of chop to me. Earnings kind of hurt it. Actually, earnings hurt it more than April did, than Liberation Day did. That's interesting to know. So a recovery into this area of chop, it looks like most likely you'll get, because you filled the gap, you went higher, and then rejected off of this area. So I guess the area would be that area right there. But now that it's traded down, I can include all this stuff right here as well. Okay, so this looks like chop to me. And if I look at XLV, yeah, XLV is in a chop or sideways movement or slightly downward movement also. So I wouldn't be very bullish on Abbott Labs. Not bearish either. It's just chop, a lot of chop. Okay. All right. So we'll end it there. We ended up talking a whole bunch about cryptos. We'll see if we can do an interesting earnings play tomorrow, or something to take advantage of some chop sideways. ABT daily chart looks like today's SPY 5-minute chart. That's good. Yeah, it does. It's just chopping sideways. Okay. All right, guys. It's great to be back. It's great to see you guys again. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Fartcoin. I don't even know how to look up Fartcoin works. I don't know why you're so interested in Fartcoin. Fartcoin, USDT. Yeah, it's not doing anything. This looks a lot like ABT. Yeah, it's not doing anything. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow.